So I'm going to talk a little bit about what people are looking at on the Vaccine Knowledge Project website, which, how many people here know about this website and have looked at it? Oh, lots of you. That's wonderful. Hopefully we are one of the websites that Joanna was referring to in terms of being a trustworthy source of information. So the aims of our website are to be a source of independent and balanced information, to provide clear information. We try and provide information that other websites don't necessarily provide, and in a bit more detail, backed up with references to the scientific evidence and the research, and to try and help people make informed decisions about vaccine. And the reason that Andy really wanted this website to come about was it was felt that there was so much misinformation out there. There's a huge amount of misinformation, very small numbers of actually actively anti-vaccine people, but they're very vocal and active and produce a lot of information, which is very, very easy to find, as you all know. So to have more websites that are reliable, web that people can go to and know that they're getting good quality information is really important. And this is something that the World Health Organization is now really pushing on. They had a policy for some years under something called the Vaccine Safety Net that they would rubber stamp good quality vaccination websites, and they're now actively trying to promote good quality vaccination websites in all, across the world. Basically, we've got approval from them. So who are taking this very, very seriously now about the need to actively provide good quality information to counter the misinformation that's out there. So who are we aiming at? Mainly, particularly our prime group, target group is UK parents. Generally the UK public, and also those in the other parts of the world. We have a global audience, and of course you, healthcare professionals. We hope that we provide useful information, answers to frequently asked questions. We have a whole page of FAQs which we hope provide kind of tailor-made answers to at least some of the kind of questions that you get asked by parents that you won't necessarily automatically know the answer to, because of course they've done their research online and found some things that you won't necessarily know are concerns. And as Joe pointed out, we have very, very small numbers of people in the UK who are outright vaccine refusers, but rather larger numbers of people who have questions and who worry, and who will go ahead and immunise, but actually have things that they are concerned about, that they want answers to before they will make that decision. So this is what's happened to our website traffic since we launched, which I'm now starting to find actually slightly scary, because last year we had over a million page views worldwide, and that was 714,000 visitors in the year. About 11% of those are returning visitors, so most people, I think, are coming when they have an issue. They're tending to view only one or two pages, so they're looking for very specific information, and then they're going away again. So they're not kind of generally browsing, they're coming in to look for something very specific. You can see that we have really a lot of peaks and troughs, and I'll just briefly explain these. The overall trend is upwards, and we're kind of increasing at the moment by about between 40 and 60% increase on year, which is quite a lot. The first peak you can see, the really massive one in 2015, anybody know what that relates to? It's quite a while ago now, so I don't know whether people will remember. It's a very specific event happened, or anybody? Measles outbreak in California, absolutely. It was the Disneyland measles outbreak, and there was this massive surge of interest in measles and MMR from America, from the US at that point, which then dropped away again. We have a seasonal peak now in the UK every winter, every sort of October, November, December, for flu. So the big peaks you can see recently, the most recent one is flu vaccines. Huge numbers of people in the UK are looking at both nasal flu, and this year lots and lots and lots of people were looking at the inactivated flu vaccines because they changed and because the advice was different. We also have some minor peaks and troughs. So at the beginning of the school year, we always get a little blip in views of HPV vaccine, men ACWY, and teenage booster, because the letters have gone out. And parents go, what's this? Never heard of it. And they look it up. And then it drops away again. So those are the sort of normal peaks and troughs, and then nobody looks at anything over Christmas. And there's another dip in the summer. So we've had a massive bounce back from the dip right at the end there is Christmas. But then we've had this really much bigger than I would have expected bounce back since Christmas, which is partly normal sort of bounce back from Christmas, but also measles and MMR interest is on the up. Mostly still from the States, but I've noticed actually just looking last week that there is a gradual increase in interest from the UK. So more people in the UK are starting to look at measles and MMR pages, which is interesting, and that's probably something that needs to be kept an eye on, because it does sort of reflect, you know, what the concerns are in the population. Most visitors come from the UK, so just about 40%. And then the ones that interest me here actually are India and the Philippines, because, you know, they obviously have English as a language in those countries. And maybe they don't have local websites that they feel give them good quality information. Anyway, we get an awful lot of views from India and the Philippines, but it is predominantly the UK. And these are the top pages visited from the UK in 2018. So you can see 10% of all the views we got from the UK were about the nasal flu vaccine. It's extraordinary. Vaccine ingredients, people are obsessed with vaccine ingredients. I think we've got a pretty comprehensive page about vaccine ingredients, and we certainly get fewer questions than we used to about ingredients, hopefully because we've given people answers on that page. But then inactivated flu, that was a real surprise to me this year, that there were so many people looking at inactivated flu, because normally that's not terribly high on the list, but obviously this year, because of the changes to the programme, a lot more people wanted to know about them. And then MMR, and so on. And the other ones that interest me here are BCG, which is not offered to everybody, and chickenpox, which is offered to almost nobody. We have a huge amount of interest in chickenpox vaccine, and we get quite a lot of questions about it as well. So those are the ones that particularly interest me on that list. And then the key questions and concerns that we get, we don't know for certain who's using the website. We haven't done a survey. We don't, but judging on the emails that we get, we invite or we offer a service where people can email us. And looking at a selection of those, you get an idea of who's looking at the website. And overwhelmingly, actually, the emails we get are positive or slightly hesitant. We get almost none that are really negative, which interests me a lot. You know, we get a couple that, you know, shove your vaccines up where the sun don't shine, but occasionally, but not very often. So people are a bit obsessed with so-called toxins in vaccines, especially aluminium, which seems to be the new mercury, and people are now are worried that aluminium in vaccines is causing autism as opposed to MMR, which has never contained aluminium. So that is still rumbling on, that issue. But then we get huge numbers of people saying, I want a vaccine that isn't in the schedule, how can I get it? Where can I get chickenpox vaccine? Where can I get flu vaccine for my baby who isn't at risk, but I really want her to have a flu vaccine? I'm going abroad to see my my new granddaughter in Australia. They've told me I've got to have pertussis vaccine. Where do I get it? So we have loads of those sort of questions. It's really interesting how many people there are out there who want more vaccines than they're being offered. That's another key question. Still this idea, which is I think one of the issues why people want single measles vaccine rather than the MMR, because they've got this idea that somehow MMR is more dangerous because it contains 3 attenuated viruses, and we've actually got a video on our website that tries to explain why that's really not the case, and why it's no more dangerous to give the 3 at once than it is to give them separately. A lot of people worried about adverse events, particularly adverse events that follow vaccination, and explaining to people why an event that follows vaccination isn't necessarily connected to the vaccine is really difficult. We've tried to do that on one of our pages, but people's instinct is if it follows, it must be linked. So that's vaccines and allergies, we get quite a lot. What's the risk of vaccines transmitting or causing diseases? Quite a lot of people wanting to know the stuff that Andy was talking about earlier. Is it likely I would have had tetanus vaccine if I was born in 1956? That sort of thing. Differences between schedules. Human cell strains. Quite a few people are preoccupied with the use of human cell strains in vaccine manufacture. And we still get quite a few questions about thimerosal preservative, even though it's not in any of the routine vaccines anymore. I'm going to stop soon, Karen. So in terms of what we can offer you, we can answer many of the questions asked by patients. Hopefully you can find answers to those by looking on the website. If you can't find an answer, you're welcome to email us. But we can't really answer clinical questions. These should go to, in Oxford, it's the Thames Valley Health Protection Team have taken over the service that we did used to run at Oxford Vaccine Group, but don't anymore. So these sort of questions, really, they take a lot of resource for us to answer. We don't automatically, or Karen does have the expertise, but Karen's not always in the office and has other things to do. So the more sort of clinical questions really should go to Thames Valley Health Protection Team, or whoever your local, if you're not in the Thames Valley, whoever your local immunisation specialist team is. And do have a look at our FAQs page, because if you find anything, a question that you're being asked regularly that is not on our FAQs page, please email and let us know and say, I'm being asked this question a lot, can you please provide an answer? And we will write it up and put it on the website. So thank you very much.